Peace and greetings, YouTubers. Alright, so welcome to part 13 of my R&B is Dead series. And in this specific episode, I want to talk about the issue of longevity and building a foundation so that you can create a lane into longevity, because I think that's what a lot of these artists need to be doing today. As we know, nobody's selling records. It's literally impossible to go multi-platinum unless your name is Taylor Swift. It's impossible to go platinum if your name is not Beyonce or Drake or J. Cole. Other than that, you're not one of them four people, you're probably not going to be selling a lot of records, okay? It's just the day, things have just changed. The industry has shifted. People don't value music anymore. You know, people beat each other up and stab each other for some $300 Jordans, but you know, you can't get them to spend $9.99 to buy an album. You know, it's just, things have changed. Society no longer values music the way they did once in the past. Music is no longer something that's exclusive and something that is a journey. So people have devalued it and they feel that it's something, it's an entitlement, it's just always going to be there. So people don't have the same appreciation for it, which is why I think the quality has also gone down, and why overall music is just terrible, and it's just not even what it used to be. Sometimes it's not even enjoyable to follow, which is why I just kind of stay in my own little imaginary world, and in my head it's still like 2005, or it's still 1995, or it's still, depending on what day of the week it is and what I feel like listening to. I don't ever follow what the current people are doing. But going back to stay on task, yes, the industry's changed. People aren't selling records. You know, in 2015, when you got a #1 album, you only sell 86,000 copies, Selena Gomez. That's what the industry is. You know, you go back to like 2002, you were #1, you were selling 300,000-400,000 copies your first week. It's just a different day and age. So the focus shouldn't always be on sales as an artist, because clearly sales aren't getting a lot of people anywhere unless you're going independent and you do the Janet Jackson route and you come out with an album. You know, I know people were trying to make fun of her because she sold like 116,000 copies their first week with the new album, but I'm like, those are independent sales, so she's keeping all that money, and this is her own record label, and she didn't promote it. And for someone to sell that much with no promotion and just their name and like one music video, I think that she's pretty well off. I can't wait to see some of your other people come out. But anyway, so like I said, the industry's changed. So like I was saying, I think these new artists have to focus on, the quality and consistent quality. Because the thing about it is the music is so lackluster by so many artists now. Like, music is supposed to take you on a journey. When I buy an album, when I put it on, I sometimes I still buy the actual CD, but I finally gave in and started buying albums on iTunes. But, you know, when I listen to an album at the first listen, I expect that when I put it in, I'm going on a journey. Like, I got my eyes closed talking about it, just thinking about how it's about to sound. You know, that's not happening anymore. Like, which is why, honestly, I could do another video just on Janet's album, just to get, because I didn't say everything I needed to say at the time. But, like, I was so happy that she came out there, because that is an album that takes you on a freaking journey. Alright? And it's so different in its left field, but it's you see the effort and the quality that went into it. And even if you're not into her music, there's something on there for you at some point in that album. And I'm like, that's what a lot of these newer artists need to do. The thing is, you want to build longevity. People aren't selling records anymore, but you can still have a career. I look at somebody like Janelle Monáe. Now, right now, she's starting to get on my nerves a bit because she's starting to go a little too commercial. I wasn't a big fan of yoga. You know, I really enjoyed the Electric Lady album, and even the album before that. And I'm like throwback Janelle Monáe, like Letting Go, when she was still like a Clark Atlanta. Like, that's the I rock with her. And I've always rocked with her because I saw something in her that was different than what everybody else was doing. And I think she's somebody who has a big fan base. She may not sell a lot of records, but she's always going to be able to sell a concert ticket. It may not be at the biggest venue, it may not be at Barclays or Phillips Arena, but she will always be able to sell at a theater 10, 15 years from now, because people have an appreciation for her performance ability. They have appreciation for the music that she puts out and the quality. And that's the thing. As a new artist, your primary focus is building your foundation. Your first 2 albums, if you're lucky enough to get a third and a fourth, the focus is making sure that the quality and the sound and the overall package and everything that you put into that album is just so well put together that you build a solid fan base that's going to follow you for a lifetime. Because once you have that, you always have a career. If you don't have that, then you're always hopping on a bunch of different trends trying to stay relevant. An example of that is that Jeremiah guy, or the birthday sex guy. Okay, he has no solid sound. There's no permanent anything about him. Whatever is the trend, he's on it. Same with Jason Derulo. I think Jason Derulo's a nice guy, and he's a pretty decent dancer and everything. But musically, whatever trend is out, he's on. One day he's EDM, the next day he's R&B thugged out, and right now EDM's trying to make a comeback, so he's back to that crap. And he's Senorita this and Margarita this and Taquito Taco, whatever he doing. You know, he hops on whatever is popular. that is a career killer. 10, 15 years from now, nobody's going to be trying to see Jason Derulo or anybody's anything. Same thing with Jeremiah. He actually 5 years from now, y'all don't got to worry about nobody going to his stuff. Okay, Jeremiah's already performing at clubs still. Okay, that's the argument that I'm making. When you're just playing around, you're just doing anything because your music is only based on your image and sex appeal. That's cool, but the music has to back up everything else that you're selling. If all you got is this and some muscles and body and you got a little bit of cute factor, that's cool. But if the music is garbage, people aren't going to follow you forever, because the minute somebody else who looks better than you or just as good as you comes out and they have music that's better, then automatically you're out of the mix. You're done. What are you good for? So that's the thing about it. So I look at, like, right here down the street, there's this place called Howard Theater in DC. And Howard Theater is this theater that can hold maybe like 2,000 people capacity. And every week, there's always a bunch of different artists that come there and just sell that joint out. And these are artists who were never even the biggest of biggest artists in their heyday. So, and I mean, these are older artists and newer artists. So like Shantae Moore, Layla Hathaway, Drew Hill, so it's like people who used to be successful or people who have always just kind of like Drew Hill was a pretty popular group and then they kind of faded out. But like Drew Hill can go there and sell that crap out all the time. Shantae Moore, she never sold a lot of records, but her music and the quality and the appreciation for the uniqueness in her voice and the things that her voice was able to do as a live performer makes people go and support her. So even though she's never even, I don't even think she's ever won gold before, she can sell that place out every time I go. Every time she's there, she sells that mess out. And people appreciate her. Layla Hathaway, she's never gone platinum. But the thing about it is, at the beginning of her career, those first few albums she put out, even though they didn't sell a lot of records, there was an appreciation for the quality of the art that she put out. And people were like, I really like her. And this, with her being Donny Hathaway's daughter, she had a standard that was put on her, like, okay, your daddy's Donny Hathaway, you better bring it. And she brought it. And the thing about it is, 25 plus years later, because she came out definitely in like 1990 or 89 or 88 or something like that, people flock to see her. She is a legend on the stage. She may not be a legend on the charts, but people will go and see her. And like, this is 20 years after her career. There's a lot of people that are out right now who are in the top 10 on radio who we will never hear from again in 20 years. Nobody's going to be flocking to pay $20 to see them at anything. And it's because the quality of what they put out isn't there. They haven't built a solid foundation. They're living in the moment. They are a trend artist, and I've already told you guys, trends, if you come out during a trend and you saturate your brand into that trend, when that trend dies, you go with it. Ask Cherish, okay? Ask anybody who came out during the Snap movement. I like Cherish. They were a fun group, but they came out with, the bounce with it, rock with it. We was bouncing and rocking, and then Snap music died. I know they had took a break because I think one of the sisters had a baby. When they tried to come back out and do the whole commercial thing, the fan base didn't follow them. The fan base was like, oh, I guess y'all back out, but we don't care anymore. They let it go. And Cherish, I don't know where they're at, but I did like them. That was my group. I liked them for a little bit. But like, that happened with Cherish. If you go back to the New Jack Swing era, which is my favorite time period of the 90s, next aside from the mid-90s, I love that whole 1988 to 1992 New Jack Swing, because we were just partying and getting down at every song, just a straight party. But the thing about it was, if you were an artist and you came out as a New Jack Swing artist, when New Jack Swing died, you were out of the mix. So like, Portrait had probably my favorite song of the 90s, the here we go again, going through, that was my song, like that was my group. And we never saw them again. Got hiccups and stuff, sorry. We never saw them again after New Jack Swing died. They just, what happened? Okay, Jade was my group. The Don't Walk Away, that is probably one of the most classic New Jack Swing joints, with that cowboy bell just hit, that cowboy bell hits, and when you just hear them first chords, you know what's going down. Like at any lounge or party, if they get to the New Jack Swing portion of the night, and I hear that, I'm going. I'm about to get it in. Okay. By the time their second album came out, and New Jack Swing had died, and they were having issues trying to figure out their imaging and all, nobody cared. The 432 Your Time Was Up, which that was a single, by the way. That wasn't a diss to them, but nobody really cared. And by then, TLC was creeping and all these other groups. And I think that's affected so many people. Not a lot of people made it out of that New Jack Swing era. TLC made it out, and I think the reason they made it out was, one, they had a different kind of backing behind them, and two, I think by them having the Baby, Baby, Baby song, that made people look at them like, okay, they're not a one-trick pony. Okay, they got a little bit more going for them. And then the music in general and just overall, they got rebranded when Crazy Sexy Cool came out. Just the amount of money that went into their project kind of helped them. And there are a lot of other artists. Mary J. Blige kind of came out of that period too. But Mary J. Blige, she didn't only solidify herself in New Jack Swing. She had the real love, but she had a bunch of different other elements and sounds to her music. So that's what kind of pulled her out. And of course, she drops the My Life album after What's the 411, and she was set. She's a legend. So the thing about it is, if you come out of a trend, you're not going to make it. Especially, like, a prime example is all those people who came out during the intergalactic era of R&B. That whole 1998 to 2001 where everything sounded like an episode of The Parkers. If you came out of that sound, and that's the only sound you came out with, then you are no longer relevant to music at the moment. Okay? So I look at the girl Toya. You really may not remember her, but she had the song, So Come On Shorty, if you think you can roll with a nice stuff, play your ball and out of control. Her, like, that was the jam all day in middle school, but then we never saw her again. Prime example, like, you come out of one sound and your stuff is not well-rounded enough because you're not thinking long-term, because you're living in the trend, it's going to die soon and you're going to go with it. So all these R&B acts who are currently riding the trap wave because they want to be rappers and sing at the same time, I can't wait to see where y'all going to be in a few years. Time out, I got to see how long I got. Okay, I got some time. Good. So yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, this whole trap sound, I'm like, trap is cool, but trap, in my opinion, is not something that's going to let you have a career. Trap is something for the club. Trap is something for what the kids are doing. Trap is for when you just got to, I'm not into it, but I understand. But if you're really trying to have a career and you're as a vocalist or anything, why are you doing trap music? You can have a trap song or two, but that shouldn't be the primary focus of your career. And I think that's why I got so frustrated with a lot of the current acts, because clearly R&B has so many open lanes right now. There's so many lanes that are not filled. One, there's no more guy groups. There's no Black Streets or Guy or As Yet or Boys and Men's or Jodeci's. There's an open lane waiting for the male R&B vocalist groups. Somebody just jump into it. And I mean real singers. I'm not talking about the whiny, nasally, August Alsina type singers. No diss to August, but I mean the Jodeci. You give me the squalls and the riffs and the runs, and you give me the After 7, Kevon Edmonds, just from the diaphragm, rip the note out. That lane is open. The girl group lane is open. And the thing about girl groups was that there were several different kinds of lanes for girl groups. You could have had the vocalist lane, like the SWV In Vogue type brownstone lane, but you also had the more commercial TLC Destiny's Child lane. Destiny's Child was vocally, yeah, we know, but still, they had a different kind of backing. You had the big the big backing major performer, dancers, big music videos type of lane. And then you had your non-singing singers group, but it was the non-singing singers and their songs were so unique and specific to their sound that it worked. So you had like Total. And I love Total because like Kissing You is probably one of the best songs to come out of the 90s. And it's like, all those lanes are open for girl groups. The lanes for bands, like the Mint Conditions and the Tonys and the Brand New Heavies, those lanes are open. Just overall, and even like the dance hall artists, like the Maxi Priest and the Shaggy and the Sean Paul kind of lanes are open. That's not really R&B, but still, it fits in that same realm. There's all these different lanes that are open. And just in general, the overall lane for male vocalists that really go in. There's a lot of male vocalists that are out like Tyrese and Luke James and all of them, but I mean, there's still more room for them. Like, the thing about it is, the variety is no longer there. There used to be a time where, just going back to girl groups, if you didn't like TLC because you hated T-Boss's voice, it was cool because you'd be like, well, I don't like them, so I'll go to Brownstone. But if you hated Brownstone because they sounded like a 10-member choir because it was 3 members overdubbing their voices a million times, you could go to En Vogue. But if you didn't like En Vogue because all 4 of them just stood in the line too much and they didn't do enough moving for you, then you could go to Escape. But if Escape was too good for you, you could go to SWV. But if SWV got on your nerves because there was only one lead singer, then you could go to another group and you could go watch Cut Close. But then Athena Cage was kind of their only lead singer, so if you only didn't really care for Cut Close, then you could go to another group like Jade, and if you didn't care for Jade, you could just go to another group like Jeanne, pronounced Jeanne, I used to call him Zane. If you didn't like Jeanne, you could go to Mokensteff. If you didn't like, you see where I'm going with this, it was like group after group after group. If you didn't like Mokensteff, you could go to Total. If you didn't like Total, you could go to 702. If you were old enough to remember, or you hung in there long enough and you didn't like them, you could go to Black. Like, there were so many groups, there were all these different lanes, and the variety was there. The variety's not here anymore. We got one of everything. So I'm like, with all these new people, take your pick of what you want to do. Just jump in. Just jump in and just make sure that there's quality there. And the thing about it is, as an artist, if you stay true to yourself, you stay true to the audience that you have and to the lane that you've created for yourself, you will have a career. So when I look back at Janet, I understand that she's more of a pop artist, I mean, she's rooted in R&B, but she's had pop success and everything. But just looking at how this current album is going, for someone to be going for 7 years and to come out with a song that is so mellow, and for that mess to sit at #1 on the R&B, I mean the adult urban AC charts for 8 weeks. Okay, that is the result of Janet knowing what lane she's in at the moment. She knows pop doesn't check for her anymore, but she recognizes that R&B will always support her. And adult R&B, not R&B for these kids that who don't know who she is, but the R&B for like the 26 and up crowd, the people who grew up on her, they will always have an appreciation. So she was like, you know what? I could release some of these up tempos off my album first, but no, because then pop's gonna ignore it. So let me do what I do. So here's No Sleep, and I'll throw J. Cole on another version of it, and we'll have fun. And that crap's just sitting at #1, just sitting there, just sitting. Every time I turn on the radio, you're missing me. I was like, Janet, you tried it with this song, but still, yes, get it, Janet. So the thing about it is, these people have got to be more long-term thinking about just what they want to do. You know, the quality in your albums need to take us somewhere. Everybody is bored. And that's why I get, time out, how much time I got? Okay, I'm about to wrap this up. Like, I get mad at Beyonce sometimes because Beyonce is one of the very few people who has enough commercial pull where she can set the trend for what everyone else should do. But right now, she's in this phase where she's kind of hopping on the trends that are already out. And I'm like, the Beyonce project was a really well put together project, but I hated that the single she chose from the album didn't represent the album. I hated that Partition was a single. I didn't like, it's like, okay, I'm not a fan of the 7-Eleven bow down, flawless, feeling myself Beyonce. She can keep all of that. I'm a fan of the superpower, the mind, the EXO, the blue. I'm into that. That's what I'm into. That is what showcases her artistry. That is what I think makes people buy her albums. People aren't buying her albums for no dang, I'm sorry, they're not buying it for flawless. They're not buying it for feeling myself or whatever that is. Y'all may disagree. Trap is cool, but Beyonce, you're not a trap artist. So why are you dumbing yourself down to fit in with what these kids are doing? Like, I feel like it's career suicide. She has such a following that she doesn't really have to worry about that. But if somebody else were in her same shoes, that would be the end of their career. By the time their next project would come, there'd be no anticipation. Because you don't anticipate trap music unless you're heavily into it. And people who anticipate trap music don't buy it. So, I don't know. Yeah, my thing is just, Beyonce, listen. And I think that's why so many people are hard on her, because people recognize she's one of the few people that has enough pull. She's one of the few people that white people will freaking give a chance to, as far as white radio, as far as white media, as far as white mainstream outlets for exposure. She is one of the few. Drake gets that exposure too, but Drake's a rapper. Rihanna gets that exposure, but we ain't seen her in I don't know when. And even Rihanna knew what was up and tried to do something a little different with the Paul McCartney song. So I'm like, Beyonce, I would like to see you. I'd like to see a continuation of what you did with the Beyonce project, but expand even more. If you're going to come out with such a great project, why don't you release some of the gems from the project? I feel like her team was afraid to, because EXO didn't do that well, they were afraid for her to experiment more because some of the singles from 4 didn't do as well either. So it's like, well, let's bring her back to what she knows. So, ooh, shock and awe factor, Partition, ooh, so creative, ooh. And that's not a diss to Beyonce. I enjoy her, but dang, I was so disappointed because she is in a position where if she can just put out one, that's why I appreciated Love on Top when she dropped it, because I'm like, finally, good job. But if she can put out just 1 or 2 good, really great Beyonce type songs or whatever that have enough commercial appeal that do whatever they do, it opens the lane for other artists to kind of, for the radio and for everybody else to take a chance on other artists. Right now, the music industry is scared of black people. They are. They don't support us with anything, because at this point, everything we do is appropriated by white people, and they go and take it all and have a field day on it. And long story short, I have 1 minute left, so I gotta wrap this up. But long story short, basically anything we do, it gets shunned upon. The white acts go and do it, and it's nothing. So it's kind of like the industry is afraid of us. And right now, my biggest focus is I'm wanting these bigger acts like Drake and J. Cole and Beyonce to kind of rip that mentality from these program directors at these radio stations and, the exposure outlets, and really show people that, hey, these R&B acts have a voice. So my thing is, if you're a new artist, build your brand. Make sure your sound is evolved. Don't sit there and stay in the same sound, Miguel. We just heard your last album from 2012. Why does your new album sound like the last one? Anyway, I'm out. Subscribe to this video, it's a little too long. Share your thoughts. Let me know whose album you bought, who you like. Buy Janet's, by the way. It's really good. Tamar's album isn't too bad either. I'm out. Subscribe.